You're officially invited to join the inner circle of top leaders from all over the country. Listen and learn as these obsessed entrepreneurs reveal the secrets that led to their success. Welcome to the community. Today's episode starts now.
You like that?
I do, man. I like that. I was getting ready to get down with the tune there.
Yeah, I was going for something like "Ain't no rest for the wicked" is what I was going with. But hey, everybody, thanks for joining the community. I'm extra excited today because I feel like I wouldn't be here without this man. So I'm excited to dive in and I'm always talking to you about kind of what's going on in our business, but I'm excited to kind of turn the tables a little bit. Talk with you a little bit. So I'm super stoked about this. So I'd like to introduce John Kitchens. He is with Agent CEO. He is my personal coach. And I have so many people that talk to me and they're like, I got a meeting with my coach today, on our typical time. They're like, wait, you have a coach? I've been doing this for a while. And I was like, and I same response I make every time. I was like, Michael Jordan had a coach. That's literally what I say every time. So John, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man, it's a great honor to be here. I was really looking forward to this and jumping in. And one of the there in the open, right? And we were talking. You asked me, hey, what book? So what are you reading right now? And so finishing up "Choose Your Enemies Wisely" with Patrick Bet-David, and you had "Welcome into the Inner Circle," and that's what Bet-David he talks about is like you've got to have an inner circle of the 5 closest people, right? It goes back to Jim Rohn, the average of the 5, which, in my experience over the years has been so spot on, right? And it's finding every one of those different levers in your life that you want to pull on. You got to have that inner circle, but then you also got to have that great coach. And so as the inner circle popped up and, Bet-David in the book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, he has a like 6 different pillars on a scale of 1 to 10. And he's like, you need to run everybody in your inner circle through those things. And they got to be at least above a 50 to be able to get in. And then he's got like the 14 traits that you look for inside of your inner circle. And so it's good. It really is. It's who are you surrounding yourself with? Who's pushing you? Who's telling you what you need to hear, not what you always want to hear. Having those people around you, people that kind of make you uncomfortable in a good way, that are just challenging you to be the best version of yourself at all times. So it was cool. You said that, and I was like, oh man, I just read through that. Bet-David was like how important it is to have that inner circle in your life.
I mean, I think it's one of the things I think as I started really maturing into, especially after, you're in your college days and you have your fun people around, your fun people, you know what I mean? And then you realize where you're going as like you start noticing the people that are around you, just aren't serving you. And so you have to dive in. I haven't read that. I bought it. I haven't read it yet because you recommended it at the kitchen table. And I was like, oh, I got to get it, but I haven't started reading it yet. I've actually, but I've been going through $100 million leads again, and I'm actually going back to, I just purchased his first one. So, I'm kind of diving into the Hormozy kind of, it sucks you in, man. It sucks you in. Man, he's on to something.
He is. I think, he breaks it down into such a way to easily understand and consume. And he doesn't try to overwhelm you with big words. He doesn't, he makes it simple. Yeah. And I think that's a lesson, not only in what he's teaching, but the way he teaches is also a lesson for us when we're trying to lead and coach and train, our team and those around us. He just has such a great framework of being able to make it easily to digest. Plus he has pictures in his books. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Yeah. I mean, he has drawings. Like, it's not even pictures. Like, he's drawing stuff. It's like, I feel like he's changing the framework of the kind of the things. But with the inner circle talk, man, you're part of my inner circle, man. I feel like, especially when it comes to business, you just walk me through things, and I feel like you do dumb it down a little bit, because we'll be like, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this, and I think we should do this. And you're like, what is the most important thing you can do right now? Let's go. And we're like, well, we need to get more revenue. That's it then. Let's focus. Like, oh, why didn't we just focus on those things? And then we're supposed to have a call at 1 today. I can't even wait to tell you exactly all the stuff that's happening. When you get hyper, how you win the day. And that's what I think I've super focused on since we've been doing it. This podcast probably wouldn't be around. We started with the book and things like that. So the way that you've kind of just made it and you're doing it like on a weekly basis. Then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, it's just chipping away. It's just chipping away. It's just, that's all it is. And so you want to see these big, huge gains, and it's all in the little gains. And then see the big gains, you see until the end. And then you're like, oh my gosh, look what I did to get here. And so, but with you, man, I'm super curious just to dive into your background, kind of how you grew up. And you're an amazing coach. You listen really well. Like the active listening that you do is amazing. And so I'm excited to hear, like, when you were growing up, what was it like you growing up? Like, where are you in sports? I know you're doing like ultra marathons and things like that, but did you see yourself like as a coach when you were younger? Did you see you helping people along that way? Like, when did that click for you?
My dad was in the public school system for almost 50 years. So he was the, all-star quarterback in high school. I think he was, challenged by height, however you want to, the right way to put that. Right. And he had some shoulder issues, and back then, playing high school football, especially in Lawton, Oklahoma. And there's a lot of similarities with, Friday Night Lights that we understand from West Texas football. It carries up into Oklahoma. It's just this whole region of how serious they take high school football. And, my dad was starting quarterback there at Lawton High School, and, tore his shoulder. He was all everything for, baseball and football, and tore his shoulder. And something, even thinking back then, right, juniors, seniors in high school getting shot up with pain stuff back then, right, with tears and stuff. And so he had some injuries that didn't allow it to carry on, but he was just always sports related. So that's just how I grew up. I grew up in the locker room. Dad coached football, girls basketball, golf. And then we took care of the facilities during the summer. And so, understood, pretty quick, there just wasn't much money to go around. And I never went without. Me and my sister, we were spoiled. We never went without anything that we could have understood, right? Life was great. However, spending time with my dad meant in the locker room, right? On the hardwood, just really being around in that environment. And you just can't help when you're in those environments that you're going to just observe, and you're going to pick up things, and it just starts to hardwire you as you are. And, the one thing that really stood out to me is like, man, I want to do this. I want to pour back into people. I want to help people. I've always gravitated more to the selfless side of things than the selfish side of things. Sometimes at the detriment of potential opportunity and potential growth and in getting ahead. There's that balance of give and take. And so, for me, I was like, I wanted more. I wanted more, and I knew, teaching wasn't it. I hated school. I wasn't not willing to go to school. I went to college for a year to play golf, ended up on the drinking team, and so, ended up getting pulled out to California to live with my aunt. And, she really put me on the path of where I'm at today, really because of her. And she just got me sucked into an environment. And this is kind of what we were talking about, right? That inner circle, that environment, because environment is greater than will. And a lot of people that get held back, they just stay in that same environment, and they don't, as much as they want to grow, they want to get better, they're not willing to let go of the things that's holding them back. And, I've always been pushing for more and more and more. And I don't know if that's just was that inner competitiveness and not willing to settle, and really having, friends that were, and so when you're in sports, right, you understand winning and losing, and being especially in team environments and seeing teams win and teams lose, but also having really good friends that excel. My best friends growing up, they were all, world-class, grapplers, world-class in wrestling. And, they, winning state championships when they were babies and just carried over, top nationally ranked. So when you're in that environment with coaching and sports and winners, you're not going to be that loser that just kind of gets to hang out and gets the free ride, right? You got to contribute, you got to push, you got to do more. So that really kind of hardwired me, but it was always like, man, there's got to be a financial way that's better. And I really never, I kind of set the whole coaching thing aside, because I was like, man, I ain't trying to do what my dad did. I don't know how he did it. Right. I mean, I saw those paychecks and I was like, man, there's no way. And there was a reason why he was coaching, year round and taking care of facilities just to make ends meet. So, I just really kept pushing for a better way. And, playing golf my whole life, it was just so natural, and kind of gravitated into the business side of things out in California. And I had a green light, and it's just, if you read McConaughey's book, right, everything happens and you can either look at it, how, whatever perspective you want to look, man. But there were a bunch of green lights, and the green light for me was just in the environment and the timing in kind of Northern California there, just south of Silicon Valley. We were about an hour south of San Jose and about 45 minutes from Monterey, in a town called Hollister, California. And it was, at the time, the golf facility, man, it was semi-private golf resort. So I got to deal with public. I got to deal with members. We had food and beverage. We had lodging. And I just had one of the most incredible bosses that she just really pushed me to not like, man, you know how to play golf, you know how to teach golf, but you don't know anything about business. And, being in an environment to where you have somebody that believes in you and lets you make decisions and lets you fail, even when you know it's going to fail. So this was at the height of 98, 99 going into 2000. Well, in the golf scene, for the golfers out there, they know what was happening. That was Tiger.
That was Tiger.
Everything Tiger. Well, at that time, David Duval, before Tiger's reign, David Duval was the number one player on the planet. And Duval was sponsored by Tommy Hilfiger. Guess what she let me do? She let me outfit the shop in Tommy Hilfiger because David Duval was the number one player on the planet. One of the dumbest things ever done. But she knew it wasn't going to work. She let me fail. And so we, obviously with the members and discount and stuff, we didn't make any money off of the merch and everything that we did. But what she taught me was a lesson, and that was more valuable than anything that the shop could make. And, that was one of those things that always stood with me, and it's carried over into my leadership style. Is even if the answer's wrong, you got to at least understand, did we get the framework and understanding to where now we have a principle that we'll be able to carry on from now on. And thank goodness that was pretty early on in my time there. So we were able to make those adjustments, and I challenged. I knew what questions to ask from that point, and it was so valuable for her to let me do that. The money that we didn't lose money, but we didn't make money. However, the lesson was worth it, and that little thing like that, man, is just carried over. And if you're ever, you probably figured this, right? You're experienced it as well. you have a small hometown, you leave, you always get sucked back at some point. And I got sucked back in 2001 from my high school. One of my best friends in high school, he had a construction company, and he wanted me to come back and really just be the whole operation side, behind it all. I mean, he's a serial entrepreneur. I mean, he was one of the kids that was, buying blow pops at Sam's Club, and then, tripling the price, quadrupling the price, making profit, right? We did it out. I mean, come on, we did it out of necessity. We needed some beer money for the weekend, right? We
telling you,
we had to do what we had to do.
Telling you.
But, that came back. And then, when I came back, I was able to I ended up spending 4 years coaching with my dad, coaching his golf team. And they had just won the state championship the year. And then I came back the next year after they won state. And we had 3 of the probably top 10 golfers in the state on our team. And they were freshmen that year that I came in. Actually, they were sophomores. So my plan was to coach them through high school. Never won a state championship. They were a bunch of, they knew they were good. I'll put it that way.
Those guys.
They were those guys. We never really, lived up to the potential, because they should have won state all 3 years. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons, man, coaching those kids, coaching those egos. And, I'm so proud of all three of those kids to this day. In fact, we lost my dad. It's been about a year ago. And, one of my dad's golfers, he was the number one problem child. He was the most talented, but he was the problem child. He just had a son, ended up naming his son after my dad. So
man.
You talk about legacy, you talk about the impact that people have, and that was my role model, right? That was in even at the time, Trav, man, I never wanted to lean all in with it, right? I think that was probably my ego. I have a better way. I can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's you're not making any money here. You got to be able to do this, right? But it's the impact when you have, kids or athletes or clients that you've had an impact on, that they name their son after you. It's pretty powerful. And so that was my dad. And
wow.
That was kind of, I think, the hardwired DNA with me, with him, obviously, kind of growing up, my buddies, the time in California, back to working with those serial entrepreneurs, and, coaching with my dad, coaching some great athletes. And then, that's before real estate, right? So that was kind of the foundation and the hardwiring before even getting into the real estate space.
Yeah, I mean, man, to have that, I think there's something to be said, because I still say, like, looking back at my life, I had a coach that, I don't know, just they believe in you to a point that, like, you're like, you don't see it. Like, you don't, like, see, like, what do you see in me? Like, they're pushing you to a point, but they do. And that's, like, the most inspiring thing. I had a coach, his name was Mr. King. I'll never forget him. It was my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade basketball coach. And I was a basketball player. So, to this day, that's like, I think of him of like, man, he pushed me so much that if I like had one person, he's like, he's the guy. Like, he's the guy that I'm like, and you put him on this pedestal, and that sounds like that's what that, did what happened with your dad, is he put him on this pedestal of like, man, he just made the biggest impact on him that, it's like the ripples in the waves, it just keeps going, and you don't even know what impacts. And I don't know, did your dad know how big of an impact that he made in his life before?
The way, and, we're looking at just kind of the reflection of his life. We're going through, the funeral process last year. And, the one word that always stood out to me was very stoic. My dad was very stoic. He was the exact opposite of most coaches during that time, which was they led with that, iron.
Yeah.
He never did. And so being able to see that, I mean, he had his grumpy moods, but for the most part, he didn't with an iron fist. He definitely had his style, his way to show his not approval of what you were doing. I mean, you knew if you were out of line, right, or you weren't doing what you needed to do. He had his own way of letting you know that, but he never he never led with an iron fist. And I there's still, even at his funeral, all the athletes and students that he had such an impact on, just coming and sharing their stories and things that you don't know. and so I think, a lot of lessons coming from that is, making sure, doing the right things, making sure, having those feedback loops to get that information to continue to improve and know that you're on the right path, know that you're impacting a lot of people. And especially, when you're in a paycheck position like that in the school system. I mean, you're getting a paycheck. I mean, obviously they're going to let you coach certain things. They need bodies. Sometimes they let you stay in there when you shouldn't be in there. But I think how that carries over for us in the entrepreneurial space is like, we only get compensated when we get the results, and getting the results for people and seeing the transformation, helping them overcome challenges and problems, really get clear on their desires and what needs to happen to be able to be in pursuit of that. So there's a lot to be said from that stoic type of philosophy, and that, man, you can get people to move in the direction that they want to move, being that true. And I think what it is, it's really understanding the whole, the hero and the guide kind of scenario, right? Sometimes those coaches with the iron fist, they want to be the hero. They want it about them. Some just want to be behind the scenes. They just want to, make the players shine. They want it about the players. They want it about, the client. They want it about, whoever that is, to be able to help them get those results. And I think when you do it over such an extended period of time, I mean, the accolades and things that will come from it. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of different ways to get there, for sure.
I think, especially I think like the hero and the guide, you have the hero that he's thinking about when I win, like if I lose, I'm going to look bad. And if I win, I'm going to look good, opposed to like pushing it off on his team of like, how do we get there? He's more worried about that. And so I think there's something to be said. I think the word stoic too, it's coming back. I think people are trying to be more like that. Like they have so many like things going around. I don't think I heard the word stoic very much going through like the 90s and 2000s. I think it kind of, especially like, I think in the entrepreneurial space, as far as in coaching and things like that, I feel like we had the super high sales type of people that came out of like, that were just like, yeah, you always got to be closing your ABCs. Like you got to go out, like, and now it's kind of like you get to lay back and you kind of, what's that active listening of being the guide, opposed to being like you have to be that person that's always in front of there, which is, it's kind of what the community is about too, right? It's like, how do I become a servant to that? And then what happens with that is people will want to do it back, and it's kind of, you kind of get that loop all the time, and opposed to just being like, hey, this is a transaction, or, John's just in this coaching because he wants money. And that's what he does good. And it's like, people can see that, and I think for you, it's like, I'm like, no, dude, he wants to see me successful because that's how, yeah, it's great. He has to make money doing stuff, but I truly believe that you believe that too. Like, I want them to be successful. Like, I want to see it. So like you coming on here as a coach, like, is like, this is awesome. We got here. We got to this point, like when we first started, we were going to do this. And so, it's hard being a coach sometimes though, because you do wear that success. And as far as you being a coach, you've coached a lot of people. Have you had to learn to not like wear, like to kind of be able to separate that? Because you're going to probably have people that come and go. It's like, when I was training people, you'd have people that are like, I want to lose 100 pounds. And you're like, no, you don't. because I know you're not coming to the gym unless I'm here with you. And you know this, you want to get there sometimes more than they do, So I think, have you had those situations where you kind of like been able to, you see people put in the work, and that's when it's always good. But is it like, have you learned to detach a little bit from that as you've been coaching so many people?
Yeah, I did. I used to take it so personal in the beginning. And I think that was, being such a operator at a high level, with, getting, in real estate, when it comes down to real estate, I think there's more people that kind of default into it than intentionally get into it.
Yeah.
And so either coming from an investment side, hey, I'll just do it. Hey, I got a house, we save the money, right? A lot of people don't intentionally get in and say, I'm going to make a career of this. I'm going to do this for the next 30 years, right? I think very few are intentional. And so for me, I got in on, the operation side of things, right? I was operating with my buddies, serial entrepreneurs. We, they had a couple existing businesses. We took some new ideas, got them profitable, and we sold everything, right? So that was a cool experience to be able to, get things even more profitable and then flip them. And so we flipped right at the fourth business I stepped out on, which was a bar. And that was in 2004. And in 2003, we sold the last kind of all-in company we had, which was a trash company. We landed a big contract with company there in town. And so Waste Connections or Waste Management, I can't remember which one, stepped in and they bought us. So they bought all the equipment, they bought all the people, they bought it all, which are like, awesome. I mean, literally it was less than a year and a half from idea, startup, get the contract, profitable to get bought and get sold. So it was a cool experience. We just didn't have
like in your local community. Yeah. Like in community, like you're just like, hey, we saw this problem. Let's go do this. And
I think what we had a relationship with that company through one of the other companies. And so word got out that they were going to be looking for that. So we were like, well, why not? We can do that. So we did it. We just knew how to, I mean, that goes to the power of relationships, right? Power of doing right and building trust with the right people. And, you get the right information. And so then it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to take advantage of it? Or and so for us, it's just what we did. So, then we get into the bar business, which is a horrible idea, especially for me. I've got a 1-year-old, and then my daughter was on the way. She was born in July of 2004. So, I've got two babies, and the bar business is not a good equation. So, I made the exit, and my buddy that played junior high and high school golf with, and we were actually first roommates into college, Mr. Michael Reese. He caught wind that I was about to make a jump, and he was mentoring and really sucking everything that he could out of information wise from Jay Kinder. And Jay, which is crazy, this goes back to the power of brand. Jay and I living in the same town, same community. I'm running up there, not at night, but I'm running during the day, running the bar. And I never met this dude yet.
Wow.
I mean, the entire county is 100,000 people. And I had never met this dude, yet I knew exactly who he was because I heard him on the radio. I saw his billboards, and saw his signs, and knew who he was through that regard. And met him in October of 2004 and got on board. And, that year, I think we closed about 340 transactions. And then 2005, we did 430. And then 2006, we did 531. And, in a market that only does about 3,000 total sides per year. And so, the blessing was being in Lawton, Oklahoma, average sales price less than $120,000. And what it taught us, and I had already known, but I saw the importance of it. I's dotted, T's crossed, details matter, and every dang
Yep.
was required. And so it was a fun run. Didn't know anything about balance or putting other priorities around relationships or around health. I mean, it was just all go. And when you're in a market that only does 3,000 sides, you do 530, and you're number 2 because you're going head to head with the top 10 Remax team on the planet every day. It makes you damn good.
Yeah.
And so we were consumed. I mean, Kinder was in the worst shape of his life. I mean, both of us failing relationships. I mean, it was stress, right? And you can stress your way there, but there's a better way. There's a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of carried over into me and into the coaching side of things. And, fast forward, we ended up finally getting Kinder out of production. That's, the whole coaching organization, he down to Dallas and working with Michael, to get, Kinder Reese coaching. It became NAEA. And so, I'm head of company running Lawton, and got it the most profitable that it had ever been. But it was systems, right? Learning, being super system dependent, knowing how to lead the right way, having the right people, the importance of having the right people. And so, Lawton was really a blessing, and it just opened the door for what we were trying to do in Dallas and what we did in Dallas. And so we had the brokerage down there. The three of us always wanted to do something together, and we did. And then, EXP comes along, and we shut down the brokerage, and, they went all in on EXP, paid off really well for them. And that's where, I went full throttle, didn't carry on another brokerage, didn't start up anything else again. But, I'm in my 12th year of one-on-one coaching. And I think, long-winded to your question, yeah, I did. I took it very personal because, I wanted even our team members, our agents, to succeed. And even when we got into the coaching side of things, when they weren't doing the work required, I felt like it was a reflection on me. I felt like I wasn't doing my part. And it took a little while for me to kind of disengage with it. To say that it doesn't bother me at all would be not be true. But I think one of the things that you learn is that when you're coaching and teaching on principles, you're teaching on, proven, a proven framework, a proven track. I think as coaches, I think being able to reframe things to make things relevant, reframe things to be able to connect, reframe things that really makes a lot of sense for the individuals that you're working with, that you're coaching. And one of the biggest things, Trav, for me, and I think early on, right, I cared more than they cared, and I wanted it more than they wanted it. And I was all about, this is the way. And I think the maturity and the evolution is that there are certain things we can't argue. However, there are so many ways to attack it. And where we have to start is, what do you want to do? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And it really gets into a lot of consultative, a lot of question, and getting people clear. I think that's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
We get so just like down in the day to day, we lose sight of the goal. We lose sight of the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that's where it all has to start is like, man, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you like? Who do you want to be? What do you want this to look like 5 years from now? And getting people out of the day to day and getting them, looking into the future. And, it's just, I'm reminded, one of my favorite quotes from Dan Sullivan is that, if you're not happy with your present situation, is because your future is not big enough. For our present to be better, our future has to be bigger. And the biggest transformation that I've seen, that I've been able to help people with, is is the transformation into a bigger future. And I think when that starts to happen, that's where the magic and that's where it gets fun.
I think that, yeah, especially when you're coaching people, is I think a lot of times they expect you to have all the answers and they don't realize they have most of them. Mm-hmm. They have most of the answers, and that's becomes the difficult part, because it's like if you start telling people do this, do this, do this, do this, and they're like, then you get, I don't feel like that's me. Well, then who is you? Who are you? Like, figure out what you want to do. It's like, well, I feel like I want to do luxury. Go do luxury then. Like, is that the best thing? I mean, there's a lot of best things. I mean, is that what you want to do? Are you going to go after it? If you're going to go after it, you can be successful in anything you do. It's like, but what do you want to do is sometimes the hardest question, like, where do you see your life? Like, why are you doing this? And I think sometimes when you're coaching people, they just want the answers, and you're like, no, it doesn't work like that, because if so, you can't, like, and that's where I think I always start telling people, first step you have to do is prove that you want it more than I do, because that's going to be the hardest thing. And first step is that you got to figure out exactly where you want to go. They say, aim small, miss small. Be specific. Where do you want to go? And if you aim small, you'll miss small. And so when we start, and I think that's the hardest. So my background, I did weight loss transformations, and I mean, you're talking life or death sometimes. I mean, organ donor transplant and things like that. Like, this is real estate. So I'm like, to me, I've like learned to kind of detach a little bit. I just want to see them so successful that when they're doing the wrong thing, that it's like, that's like the hurtful thing. You're like, yeah, but we hyped this up and you said you were going to do this and you never did. And now you're not. And now it's going to come back to the point is that then they're going to go, well, yeah, but if the system would have been better, and you're like, I know this is always going to come back around. Like, the ownership isn't there. When the ownership isn't there, is like, that's kind of, I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the best, because I think ownership of everything, like, over own it. Like, I'm always like, just over own it. Like, maybe it wasn't your fault, but what did you learn from it? Yeah. It's all the business of learning. That's what we always are. But I think with coaching, man, it's hard, because I think you have to have when you have a coaching mentality, and you want everyone that you talk to and you work with to succeed. Right. You want it so bad. You want to be like, man, I want that success story, and not for the accolades, but just to see like that breakthrough, And it's hard. Like, it's hard. Because you're like, but it's those internal battles, right? You have the, choose your enemy wisely, but like the first enemy is yourself. The very first enemy is yourself. You have to, like, it's the very first. I'm like, it's a way easier to work on those external enemies than it is the internal ones, is what I found.
It is. And I think, that enemy it's not necessarily, it's what's holding you back. And a lot of it obviously happens in our mind. And that typically is the biggest constraint that we all deal with. And so being able to attack that first, and that's why knowing exactly what you want, not what other people want for you, but what is it that you want? And that's where, that's where I always start. Like, I don't know, tell me the goal. What are we trying to do? What do you want to do? Not what, people might be pushing on you or telling you. What is it you want? I mean, I've coached so many people out of real estate, and I don't feel bad about it, because it's not what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like pursue what's going to, give you that joy, give you that fulfillment that you're going to be excited about doing every dang day.
Yeah.
And,
you got to be obsessed about it, right?
Yeah.
You got to be obsessed. Like, that's what I love. Like, I wear that shirt all the time. I'm like, everyone's like, what are you obsessed about? Like, I get so many questions about obsessed. And I was like, oh, you don't want to know that. You got someone that needs to buy or sell a house.
Obsessed about my health. Yeah. I mean, it is. And I think you have to have that type of mentality and behave that way. Or you're just fighting for survival. And I think when you're just even in fighting for that survival, it gets down to a point, I think, the only way that you stay in survival goes back to your point, right? If you adopt that victim mentality, and that doesn't serve you, that doesn't serve the people around you, that doesn't serve the people that you're impacting, that are looking to you for guidance, for your leadership, for your direction. It's just all about being accountable, and being accountable for your actions, being accountable for your thoughts. And that's what has to change first, right? It has to change our thinking. We'll change the way we feel. We'll change the way we act and behave, and then ultimately get us the results that we're looking for.
That's the move right there. It's like, I remember you did that same thing to me. I mean, I think everybody, when we have coaching, we first signed up with you and we're like, we're going to get on this call. He's going to be like, all right, guys, here's what you do. You do this. And then we get on the call and he's like, so what do you guys want to do? And then I'm like, wait a second. No, that's why we're here. You're supposed to tell us what we're supposed to do. But then it's like, the way you did it, then you're like, okay, you figured out what we wanted to do and you gave us a path to get there, Yeah. And here we are doing a podcast together.
Well, there's just so many ways, right? And it's like, okay, well, that's what you want to do. Let's start looking at all the ways. And I think that's the great thought exercise. It's like, okay. And it's like, we can do all of this, but what will we do? And I think that's where people get in trouble, and businesses get in trouble. They try to do too much. And it's not getting choked out from starvation. It's getting choked out from trying to consume and do too much. Less is more, man. Growth through subtraction, and really looking at, okay, understanding. But when it comes down to business, and it's just like I mean, this, you can teach this on the fitness side of things. So really, you want to know all that matters? How many steps did you take? How many calories and how much water did you drink? Yeah. Really, if we just pay attention to those three things, good. So we get down on the business side of things. Let's just pay attention to the three things: traffic, conversion, fulfillment. Like, let's keep it simple. And you can apply that even into relationships, right? Honesty, communication, quality time, right? Like just there's a handful of things that you can measure that deepen relationships. It's the same thing with that. I think it's like, don't overcomplicate it. And where are we struggling? And you're like, well, we're struggling with traffic. I don't know. Okay, well, here's all the things that we can do with traffic. What do you want to do? What do you want to commit to? And I think that's, obviously where the community comes from. And that's just like one foundational pillar that you have within your business, within your life. And so, I think that's where I gravitate to, okay, what's foundational, what's principles, what will stand the test of time. Forget what I was listening to. And I might've told you this, what was I listening to? It might've been Bet David. But he was talking about one of the top poker players on, I was talking with Joel Perso about this. We were on, the, COO call, and he, I think somebody asked the top poker player on the planet at the time. He said, "Hey, who's the top up and coming poker players?" And he said, "I don't know. Ask me in 20 years." And that just made me think about it too, right? It's like, okay, like anybody can be great for a day, a week, but like, come see me in 10 years. 'Cause I can tell you, anything worth building takes time. And if people get there faster, they skip steps. And skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed, because whatever steps you skipped, it's going to come back and get you every time. It never fails. Never fails. So,
those mundane tasks is what me and Jen say.
That's it.
Over and over and over.
That's what you got to fall in love with. I mean, Trav, that's honestly, that's what you have to fall in love with. And I was thinking about that out yesterday. Might have been yesterday. Yeah. It's like just out on a walk. And I was like, this is what you got to fall in love with. You can't fall in love with that race. You can't fall in love with those medals hanging behind you. Like, you got to fall in love with that next step, right? That breath, the mundane. That's what you got to fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, I wake up super early, and I'm just like, I learned it's not going to the gym. It's me just getting up. It's like that's my Monday. Like if I just get up, like I'll take off after that. You know what I mean? Like I just get up, just get up. That's the first mundane task I have to do is like what? Put your feet on the ground. Like yeah, it's pretty simple. Like do it. You know. So I appreciate you being here, man. We're running out of time, but this was an honor for me. Thank you very much for coming here. We'll have to do it again sometime, but I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. And, you know, thanks for being part of my community.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.